Joe Siracusa, adjunct professor at Curtin University in Melbourne. Joe, always a pleasure to have you on the program. I mean, this kind of reduction, is it that critical? Could it really lead to a significant increase in violence? Afghanistan has had a very, very bad few months already.
Yes, look, I've studied diplomacy all my life. I've talked to diplomats from the Vietnam time forward, and this is a terrible blunder. This is a mistake in a long history of mistakes. You cannot leave the Afghan government in this position. The Taliban are back on the rise. They own 60% of the country, or maybe 65%. They're still in bed with Al-Qaeda, and this has nothing to do with the peace deal that we tried to cut in February, because we're holding them to nothing. The President Trump, I think, has sacrificed relations with Afghanistan and his NATO allies on the altar of American expediency. I mean, this is a mistake. People in the Pentagon have pushed back. He has a number of people at the top of the Pentagon who resist that effort to push back. But look, this is a mistake, and America's been there for 19 years, and the mission is over. Whether it fails at the end. Look, when I was a young man, we walked away from Vietnam, and that was President Johnson and President Nixon. Jimmy Carter walked away from Taiwan. When America finds it expedient, it just walks away, or it trades us off for domestic advantages. Look, this is a mistake. Everyone knows it's a mistake, but the president is commander-in-chief. He can do what he wants to do.
I just in the past hour asked an Afghan journalist whether he thought Donald Trump cared at all about whether Afghans live or die. But the other side of that equation, of the possible fallout of what you're calling a disaster, reducing these troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, give us an analysis of the possibility of Afghanistan becoming a base for international terrorism as it was in the past.
Oh, I think it can easily regroup. Now, keep in mind, when I say a disaster, it reduces the ability of the Afghan government to push back the Taliban, because it no longer has its preponderance of American forces, though there are NATO forces there as well. It sends a very bad signal to America's allies. And let me tell you, America's NATO allies in Afghanistan are taking notes. If the president can walk away from Afghanistan, he can walk away from Europe too, as a matter of fact. Look, America's disengaging from the world. I mean, it has less and less interest in multilateralism and alliances. It's thinking for itself. But American policy in the past, in honoring its commitments, I don't know if you remember the days when there was CENTO and CETO and all these arrangements that were carved in stone, and of course they all just melted away. So I think it is a disaster. I think the Taliban will take over. I think they will do what they were doing before, and I think the Al-Qaeda might even rise from the ashes. And the allies who are sitting there, who are starting to go now, they'll look at the American willingness to commit itself, and they will take notes. On the other hand, the American public has been there for 19 years. What more can it do for Afghanistan that it can't do for itself? Afghanistan's always been a graveyard for foreign powers, whether it was the British or the Russians, and before that, and then, or after that, and then the Americans and the allies. There comes to a point where, after 19 years, you add the cost and you look at the benefits. And I think the cost costs more than the benefits. And you know, President Trump just sees that there's no advantage there. And look, I don't think he thinks about whether Afghans live or die. I don't think he thinks about Afghanistan at all. I don't think it's in his calculations about what he's thinking. He has a very, very limited sense of the world and what it looks like and how it's tied together. You know, the important thing is for America to lead. It's not going to lead in Afghanistan. The same thing's going to happen in Iraq and in other places. I mean, I think America's ready to disengage. Joe Biden isn't going to be able to reverse this trend. After 19 years in the Middle East, the United States is going to leave it to the regional powers, including Iran and the Israelis and the Turkish government. I mean, you know, it's going to be regional powers which will decide the future and of the region itself. So America is going to remove itself to the sidelines. I mean, of course, America has air power, but air power never works. It's not a substitute for foot soldiers. You have to have people on the ground. But look, America's leaving Iraq. It's going to leave Afghanistan. And the allies have taken notes that maybe America's word for it. Now, in this part of the world where I am, the Australians are.
Okay. Joe, thank you very much indeed. Always appreciate the analysis even. Joe Siracusa speaking to us from Melbourne.